Hate to say it, but Will Howard crumbled in the biggest game of the year.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Simply visit FanDuel.com to get started. During today's show, we'll hear how Ohio State and Michigan were punished by the Big Ten, as well as if the Buckeyes were trying to prove something Saturday afternoon. But before we get to any of that, it's all about QB1. It's all about number 18. The stuff he said after the Indiana win, that got us hyped. His performance against Michigan didn't get us hyped because that man crumbled in the biggest game of the year. And that was not something most of us thought Will Howard would do Saturday against Michigan. Yes, you hear about the rivalry. You can hear about what it's like to play in that rivalry. But until you're actually playing in it, you don't know what it's like. And we got Will Howard's performance on Saturday. It was the worst performance he had of the year. And we quickly saw, man, homie crumbled in a big way. And it wasn't because he got popped on that run around the left side of the line. No, I think he was just spooked. I think the pressure got to him. And I personally think in this moment about Will Howard, if it wasn't Michigan, you give him two mistakes and he rides on, he keeps his poise. But because it's Michigan, because it is the rivalry, because there's pressure, a lot of pressure around that program right now, he crumbled. Because, man, not everybody's built for that kind of pressure. Not everybody's built for that type of moment. Not everybody can come in here and say, oh, you need a quarterback to help you win this game, I can be it. Not everybody can just say that. And if they are able to just say that, not everybody's able to go out there and just perform in a way for you to go out there and do it. Will Howard didn't have it, man. I mean, by the numbers, by just passing, because we knew at the end of the game, you're going to rely on a quarterback's arm to win the game. And y'all know my thoughts about Will Howard's arm. He's had a career year, but you can't rely on that man's right arm and his shoulder to win the game. No. Michigan, outside the defensive backs, they couldn't hold Tate, Abuka, Smith, and I don't know. I'm going to talk about this later in the show. They should have used Brandon Ennis more in this game. Absolutely should have. And so I don't truly know why the game plan was what it was, but I do know this. That game plan or a better game plan, Will Howard didn't get it done. Pressure was too much. It was you're in front of your home fans and the pressure got to you. Will Howard, I like you as a person. You're doing a lot of great things in Columbus this year. I think the Buckeyes have had 8 home games, which is an absurd number of home games in a 12-game regular season. Might be fortunate enough to have another home game in the playoff. These things are reality. And so when it comes to Will Howard, you might have another home game. It's not set in stone because y'all didn't get it done. And by the numbers, I was looking at some of this stuff before starting the show, and I wanted to say, is this real life? Will Howard's first multiple interception game this year was against Michigan. The least amount of passing yards he had in a game. Oh, that was against Michigan too. His lowest completion percentage of the season was against Michigan. A Michigan team that didn't have the best corner. A Michigan team that you would think Ohio State would have tried to exploit the guys on the outside. But when I think about his performance, I'm starting to wonder if they trusted him. Because by the way that they call even that final drive of the game, and Brian Smith, recruiting analyst here at Locked On, will hopefully be on the show later this week talking about Ohio State's early National Signing Day. He put a clip out of the final 3 plays on that final drive. And it clearly showed, well, just the final plays in general, and it clearly showed there was a lack of trust in Will Howard. And that's concerning because you spent the offseason. You could have gone out there and got Dylan Gabriel. You could have gone out there and got Cam Ward. You could have gone out there and gotten other quarterbacks that maybe you trusted their arm more. When the guy came into Columbus, and the thought was it was true that you don't know what kind of thrower he is with the football. And I said on this show, short to intermediate, he is good, solid, above average in that range. When it comes to that 25 on out, that's where the percentage drops about how well he'll throw that ball. And so you know it's going to drop, but he has thrown some beautiful passes to Emeka Abuka, some beautiful passes to Carnell Tate, to Brandon Andrews, to G. Scott Jr. He's thrown some beautiful passes this year, and we are sitting here marveling at the growth of Will Howard. Only got it for 1 year here in Columbus. I think if it was multiple seasons of Will Howard, we wouldn't be as high on him as we currently are. Because if you get multiple years of a guy like this that you know can't win your games with his arm, that's not what Ryan Day wants. It's not what Chip Kelly wants. You don't want a quarterback that leads your offense that you don't fully trust his arm. That's what you got. Is it a mismanagement of the portal from a year ago? I don't know. Is it a misdevelopment of a guy when you first got him on campus? I don't know. I don't have those things. It could be a mismanagement of the portal. It could be. I don't think it's going to be NIL. I mean, they dumped out a whole bunch of millions of dollars for this roster right now, so I don't think it's a mismanagement of NIL. It could be because it could have been what happened when there was a quarterback in the portal that said, "Oh, I want to go here. I want to go here. I want to go here." Maybe that was mismanagement of that particular player in the portal. I don't know. I have no idea. But I do know Will Howard didn't get it done. And I wonder when that hit happened, if there was something also wrong with his shoulder. And that's why later in the game, you not only saw Ohio State doing stretch runs to the short side of the field, but you also saw them throw short passes, quick passes to the sideline, to the short side of the field. So I don't know. Yes, he did not get it done. He did implode. He did crumble under pressure, which is horrible. Will Howard will have the same thing in the win column as C.J. Stroud, the starter in this game, and as Kyle McCord. 0 wins against Michigan. Nobody in the history of this program has ever wanted to have 0 wins against that team. Y'all understand who I'm talking about when I say that team. We're family. We do this thing on a regular basis, 5 days a week, and sometimes multiple times in a day. When I say that team, it's only one team in the country that fits that description. You have that against that team. That team that even didn't have, that really at their best on defense, at your best, you're better than that. You could have exploited their holes. You could have exploited their weaknesses. You had enough talent on your side to show up and show out and have a big boy game, but you didn't do it. And here we are on a Monday, Penn State of all teams. You beat them in Happy Valley. They're preparing to play in the Big Ten Championship, while Ohio State's are waiting to figure out if they're going to be fortunate enough to host a playoff game come Selection Sunday. That's where we sit right now with this program. You're waiting to find out on December 8th where you're going to play instead of playing on December 7th for a chance to win a Big Ten championship. It's not fun, man. It's not fun at all seeing a team that you beat in the regular season that you know you're better than, preparing to play to win, have a shot to win the Big Ten championship. Now, I think Penn State is going to lose. Penn State can win that game. And that would make that loss to Michigan hurt even more. The loss to Michigan hurts a lot. And a lot of this because of the offensive game plan. Because, y'all, even on a Monday, a couple days after that game, that didn't make no sense. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. So when you get a hunt in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And maybe you're trying to get ahead on an Ohio State spot in the playoff. Go to FanDuel. They got playoff odds. They got chances to win the national championship. The Buckeyes are there. The Buckeyes are all over FanDuel Sportsbook. and you can put your first $5 bet on your favorite team, the Ohio State Buckeyes. All the action goes down in 2 places on the FanDuel Sportsbook app and at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. We do this thing every day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Every show comes out at 5 a.m. Eastern time on the audio side and on the YouTube. It all comes out at the same time. And I hope you all make it an appointment every single day to tap into this show, because when you tap into this show, you get a live postcast right there on the YouTube. We had it on Saturday. It was the most watched show ever on the YouTube because you all tapped in. Thank you for that. But also, I think about what we talked about on the postcast. We kind of touched on a little bit about Ohio State's offensive game plan, that even a couple days after, my voice, and I'm emotional, but I don't have the same emotions that I had Saturday after the game. I'm still scratching my head about the game plan, man, because that game plan was so poor. It was so bad. The numbers even show up. But what's even more alarming about the game plan, the Buckeyes only had 10 yards of offense, total offense in the fourth quarter. 10 total yards of total offense in the fourth quarter of the game. I believe Michigan eclipsed that by a lot. I forget the exact number that I saw. I can pull it up here quickly. But what we're seeing right now from Ohio State is not only a poor game plan, it's going away from what actually works. Was Ohio State trying to prove a point in that game? I don't know. If you were, it would be stupid to do that. It'd be very, very dumb. Because all you're trying to do, if you're trying to prove a point, you're making yourself look very, very silly. Proving a point is cool, but sometimes proving a point might cause you to lose a game. And that's exactly what happened over the weekend, where I think Ohio State was trying to prove a point. They didn't use their most powerful weapons. I know people on YouTube, people on YouTube talking about, man, you talking about us like we're an underdog. No, I know what this rivalry is all about. You have to use your best. It's also just plain basic football. You use your best weapons to win the game. And I titled the show, I believe it was last week, Ohio State must use the most powerful weapons to beat Michigan. They didn't use the most powerful weapons to beat in the game, and they didn't beat Michigan. Why are we still on a Monday talking about Ohio State running the ball and running the ball and running the ball and the A gap and B gap when he couldn't do it? Because it's dumb. And it's also so not just dumb, it blows my mind that the coaches would even try to do that over and over and over. Once you see it's not working, try something else, and maybe when you go back to it, it works the second time or maybe the third time. But after that third time, stop doing it. It makes too much sense not to do that it makes me want to scratch my head because it happened over and over. And if I'm Jeremiah Smith or Emeka Abuka or Carnell Tate, I'm not about to blow up the locker room right now and go out there and say, man, y'all coaches ain't getting it done. I'm not going that far. Now, I also don't know if I would go as far as a Randy Moss or a Keyshawn Johnson way back when I was a kid, when you saw them boys saying, look, hey, give me the ball. Give me the ball. I need to rock. I don't care who else is guarding me. I need to rock. I need it now. I need it over and over and over. That might be what happens. That might be what actually needs to go forward. I think Ohio State needs to have guys demand the ball. I don't find nothing wrong with Jeremiah Smith saying, hey, you see who's guarding me? I don't care who it is. Give me the rock. Emeka Abuka, look, I don't care, man. If you're that guy on your team and the guy crossing you, you already know before the game even starts can't guard you, demand the rock, man. Wait, all the time in basketball. You know, guys on the basketball court, we see it all the time. Coaches try to do all these different things the first 3 quarters, and all of a sudden, it's a 5-point, you're down 5 points, you need a bucket. Who are you giving the ball to? One of your dudes. It's call the pass it to Will offense if you want to. I don't know, man. But you give it to one of your dudes. If you got a Will Smith that can do a lot of things on the basketball court, and you got a Carlton, that isn't as talented. Are you going to give the ball to a Carlton and hope he can get the thing done? No. You're going to give it to Will Smith and get out the way. Now, Ohio State over the weekend, they didn't get the ball to their Will Smiths, and we saw the result. They tried to have a Carlton game plan. We see the result. And in this moment, on a Monday, Ohio State has at least one more game left. At least. I think they're going to be in the playoff. They could be fortunate enough to host a playoff game. Does that mean a Southern school is going to come up and play in the shoe? Maybe. I'd be here for it. I mean, I know we're getting to Alabama, Ohio State home and home coming up very, very soon. Could it be in an Alabama, Ohio State in the playoff this year? I mean, think about what that would be. Oh, side note, I haven't done this a lot. I was talking to my wife about this during the game because I was getting kind of annoyed with Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt. I really like Joe Klatt. I like Gus Johnson. I am over that duo. Gus Johnson's good. He's a big game kind of guy. He had a lot of great calls. Joe Klatt, great analyst. Man, I miss having Herbstreit call these games, man. Or I miss having Noah Eagle and Todd Blacklist call these games, man. It's game 12. I know it's week 13 or 14. I know Ohio State playing at this stage. It's a national stage, and a lot of people tuning in to this that are not the diehards like us. Give me straight ball. Sometimes I think of the explanation about Ohio State's injuries or about for Michigan, the guys that aren't there. You can filter through that in the early portion of the show. You don't have to filter through that later on. Now, maybe you want to. Maybe it's a part of your thing. But, man, when I hear Herbstreit and Fowler, it's all ball, man. You can tell they're boys. I think Gus Johnson and Joe Klatt are boys, too. I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying that. But trust me, I think Fowler and Herbstreit, they give you what you want. They give us what we want. In that game, all ball. When it comes to Noah Eagle and Todd Blacklist, they give us a ball, man. A little bit of humor in there, too. They give us ball. Blacklist, a former Big Ten quarterback. I don't know if he was in the Big Ten at the time. I think he played at Penn State. And I don't think Penn State, when he was playing, was in the Big Ten yet. Now, I like Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler. They're calling the Big Ten championship. But those other two, the CBS broadcast and the ABC broadcast, really ESPN, better, man. And I'm kind of glad ESPN has the playoff. I can't believe I wasn't planning on saying that. And you know Ohio State brings ratings. You know Herbie misses calling Ohio State games. Herbstreit. I don't know why I call him Herbie. I don't know on my first name basis. I really hope. I'm sitting there crossing my fingers and hoping that Herbstreit and Fowler call an Ohio State playoff game. The first one that Ohio State ever has is called by a former Ohio State quarterback. Hey, baby, I'm here for it. And I know that Fowler will love to call Colorado if Colorado makes it in. I don't know if they're going to or not. I don't know. I don't think so. But, hey, I get it. I would love Herbstreit to get back on the call. And I hope if that actually happens, Ohio State isn't trying to prove that they're tough. Ohio State isn't trying to show everybody named Mama that we're a tough team. No. Show everybody you have a game plan that uses your most powerful weapons in that game. We had the blueprint all week last week. We talked about what Ohio State had to do to beat Michigan, and they didn't tap into the right blueprint to win the game. And we see the result. It was another loss to Michigan, fourth in a row. At the end of that game, there was a fight. There was a brawl. One of the ugliest scenes that we've ever seen this year in the sport. Now, at the time of that postcast, I didn't know that that was the only one. There was a couple more skirmishes later in the day. Talk about those skirmishes and the Big Ten punishments to Ohio State and Michigan next. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Guys, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time still has amazing features such as all-in pricing. You're still able to see a panoramic view from your seat. They got that lowest price guarantee, and they got the Game Time ticket coverage, and all of it is geared to help take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Thank you all for tapping into Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Now, Ohio State and Michigan got into a massive fight, a massive brawl at the end of that game on Saturday. We touched on it in an instant reaction format after the game in the postcast. Michigan tried to plant a flag in the middle of the block go in the center of the field. Ohio State said no. Ohio State left Carmen, Ohio to go out there and defend their home turf. Ohio State did that thing in the middle, kind of got a little back and forth, numerous players pushing, numerous players shoving. All of a sudden, now this is the only flag I happen to see as I'm watching this game on the TV. A second flag came out. Another Michigan player was waving a flag, running around, obviously looked like a true idiot. And I would say that about an Ohio State player too. If they're running around in that nature after the first flag was put down, and I don't know if the pepper spray came out at that time or not. It was a second flag running around. Jack Sawyer pulled that flag off the flagpole, put it down on the ground, stomped on it, fans cheered. Well, the Big Ten reviewed all of the footage and rebitten it really fast. I didn't expect a punishment to come down until Monday or Tuesday. The Big Ten handed out a $100,000 fine to Michigan and Ohio State for their involvement in that and for violating the sportsmanship policy that the Big Ten has. Now, I thought the punishment may have been a heftier fine than $100,000 because I know the SEC, and I know it's two different conferences, but the SEC will fine schools $250,000 for storming the field, and eventually a lot of the times there's damage to the field because a field goal post gets taken down. If you storm the field, it's $250,000. So I thought that would be closer to that level of a punishment because cops got involved. I mean, police departments are tweeting out things on Twitter about what happened at Ohio Stadium. So I don't know if that's a hefty of enough fine for what's actually happening. I think the league needs to police things. I think Ohio State and Michigan both need to police their players. I think both schools, Michigan included, I'll get there in a second, need to police and make sure that when it comes to their, not only games they're playing, but their players are kept in check. Post-game situations, Ohio State's players know after the game, if you're not going to shake hands, you go this way. Well, Michigan players, you go back to the tunnel. For the Michigan side of things, I know this isn't a Michigan podcast. This is a very true thing to say. Michigan has been in the midst of this for numerous times. There was a video circulating once again. I think Zach Smith was the one that put it out there of, don't know what year it was, but Zach Smith was on the coaching staff. You'll remember the video in Michigan Stadium. Ohio State's players are coming out of the tunnel. There's only one tunnel in Michigan Stadium, which I think is I think it's really bad. And the fact that the Big Ten has not forced Michigan to open up another tunnel is very, very dumb. But Michigan only has one tunnel. You enter and exit in one way, getting to your locker rooms. Yes, both teams come out of the same tunnel. So Michigan heard Ohio State coming out, going to the field, and Michigan players bust through those double doors and started barking and do what they do. I believe Michigan and Michigan State got into it at one point after the game. There was a fight, and I believe there was another time Michigan got into a fight with another team. That's a problem for the Big Ten and for the Wolverines. At the same time, Ohio State has a problem because based off a report that I saw and things that I witnessed with my own two eyes, there were Ohio State players throwing punches too. So, yes, Michigan has their own problem. I saw Sharon Moore on TV waving to Ohio State fans. That's not the normal behavior of a head coach. Not at all. Now, I know you hear the fans behind you chirping all day. That's not normal behavior of a head coach. If Ryan Day was doing that, I would say the same thing about him. That's not the normal behavior a head coach should have. When it comes to this punishment, though, the Big Ten also said they're not going to hand out any suspensions. Y'all missing the mark. I was comfortable coming on here and saying I truly expected that the Big Ten would come out and say, well, Ohio State, this many players were involved. You're suspended for, even if it's a one-game suspension. I get that. Michigan, y'all going to a bowl game. Y'all got these players suspended. Cool. Ain't nothing wrong with suspending guys that get into a fight on the field. No. You don't know what I find weird? If a guy goes gets called for targeting, he's going to miss time. Gets called for targeting, the thing gets reviewed, it's going to miss time. The Big Ten is setting the precedent right now. You can get into a fight, a big old fight. Local police can put out pepper spray. We can review the footage and see punches were thrown. I saw one guy throw a Gatorade cooler at somebody. We can see all of that stuff all of a sudden. That's okay. We're not going to suspend you for that. That's a miss on the Big Ten's part. That's a big miss on the Big Ten's part. And if I'm a player and I see that, and I know I can get into a fight. Now, I'm not a fighter, but if I am a fighter, I know I can get into a fight and still play the next game. If I'm a fighter, I might try to push the envelope a little bit. Try to push a few more buttons a little bit. I ain't going to miss no time. School's going to get fined. My pockets are going to be cool. I might get a scratch on my face or two, but I'm playing the next game. That's a problem by the Big Ten. Now, I did see it. I didn't see this I really didn't see exactly the other schools out there that got into a fight. My wife and I watched a little bit of the Arizona State game up until like the end of the first half, between the postcast and end of the first half there. And then in North Carolina, NC State. I saw after the fact, as I was preparing for this show, that both those schools in the rivalry games have fights after the game, and there was also a flag. I think Arizona State tried to plant a pitchfork at center field, at midfield, and then there was a flag planting in the other game at North Carolina State in North Carolina. Stop the nonsense. Stop trying to plant something on somebody's field. That stuff that should not be in this sport. Now, I understand you want to go out there and show something in your opponent's stadium that you own the place. You did that during the game. You showed you owned that day during the 60 minutes on that field. Don't try to do nothing afterwards. If you don't want to shake hands, cool. But there's no reason to go out there and try to plant a flag or put a pitchfork on. No. Keep that nonsense out of here. What we are doing right now with these young men, what the young men are doing is very, very, very embarrassing for their teams, embarrassing for the universities, and embarrassing for themselves. And it's really bad that right now, this is not the first time it happened. Baker Mayfield did it in 2016. Michigan did it a couple years ago in Ohio Stadium. Stop the nonsense. Get this stupid stuff out of here. This shouldn't be in this sport at all. I'm doing this, and I'm very passionate about college football. It's the one sport that I love more than any right now. And I'm a big high school football and basketball guy. Cover it here locally where I live. College football hits different, man. I care more about Ohio State football than the Colts football that I grew up on. And right now in this sport, is it going to be something that's going to be the norm that in a rivalry game, you're going to be able to, go out there and put a flag on the field and just get a fine for the school? No, that shouldn't be it at all. The conferences need to step up. The NCAA needs to step up. Coaches need to step up. Something needs to be done because this stuff doesn't belong in this sport. Now, I didn't think I was going to go on a little rant at the end of the show, but that stuff pisses me off, man. Like, I don't normally get pissed off about stuff that happens. That's stupid, and it shouldn't be in this sport at all. And if it's someone that supports the flag planting and the pitchfork putting down in the ground, check yourself. That stuff shouldn't be here, man. It shouldn't be here at all. Sportsmanship's a real thing. I literally witnessed a coach last week do one of the worst things I've ever seen. A coach to make some decisions that I've rarely, if ever, have seen a coach make in a basketball game. Now, there wasn't any post-game planting of a flag or anything else, or posting up and saying, this is our court. No. But the stuff I saw last week was poor sportsmanship. The stuff I'm seeing right now is poor sportsmanship, and it needs to stop. If you're a coach right now watching this or listening to this, please do what is needed to do what you can to help eliminate this from this sport. It doesn't need to be here, man. No, I don't care about the rivalry, man. This stuff is stupid. And if Ohio State players go to Michigan next year, and let's say Ohio State wins, and they go on there and try to plant the flag on the field, I'll come on here on this postcast after next year's game and say the same thing. I don't care if it's Ohio State players. I don't care if it's Michigan players. I don't care who it is. That nonsense doesn't belong in this sport. Thank y'all for time to get Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Glad I got that off my chest. I feel a whole lot better. And now is a great time to make sure you check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast to make that pod your second listen of the day, because my guy, Craig Sheeman, is a guy that puts the Big Ten first when everyone else overlooks it. Find Locked On Big Ten on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're out of here, y'all. It's a Monday. Ain't no game on Saturday. And this show might be hot. It was hot today. It's going to be hot tomorrow. I already know the topic. I can't let the cat out the bag yet, but I already know the topic. You don't want to miss it. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe and follow on any audio podcast app out there. The Monday pod is over. I can't wait for Buckeye basketball. Hopefully that calms me down a little bit, because I'm still a little annoyed about that loss on Saturday. I'll be a little bit better tomorrow. Hope you're around for the ride tomorrow as you talk more about a Buckeye football and a coach that some of y'all are annoyed with. That's all I'll say about tomorrow's topic. We'll see you next time.